Hello, everyone. Here is the 7th issue of the Broncos Review. And today we talk about the 8 things that Xi Jinping has screwed up in the past 8 years, and then what else he will mess up. The Chinese version was released on November 20th, 2021, and the English version will be released today. There may be many grammatical errors, but I will appreciate your patience very much. In the Jintao era, he put forward a slogan called "Don't do useless things," but since Xi Jinping came to power, the situation has changed significantly. The CCP has pressured internally and expanded externally. Xi Jinping has repeatedly emphasized the courage to fight. The whole party has begun to do things that are not beneficial and have no goals. Some time ago, there was an online article that counted the 8 things that Xi Jinping has messed up in the past 8 years, since the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. The first thing, the so-called Xiong'an New Area, which is a millennium plan, has become an unfinished area, and the trillions of funds invested have been lost. The second thing, to engage in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, is to compete with the Asian Development Bank, even the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. How is it now? The third thing, the One Belt One Road, was specially written by the Chinese Communist Party as a so-called Great Strategic Plan. What happened? Is it about to explode? Malaysia's East Coast high-speed rail is not working, right? Country Garden's $250 billion investment in Golden Bay in Malaysia to tie in with the Belt and Road Initiative has also ended, right? Pakistan's China-Pakistan corridor is about to break, right? Even Pakistan doesn't want to do it anymore. Who wants to follow the CCP again? The port of Jeddah in Sri Lanka was defrauded of renting for 99 years, and now Sri Lanka has quit. How do you deal with the aftermath? As a result of the killing of the Chinese in Zambia, the local people still supported it. The anti-Chinese and anti-communist voices in Africa are the biggest in the world. Is there any hope of recovering hundreds of billions of dollars in loans? Is it possible that Italy, the European bridgehead of the One Belt One Road, bought for 20 billion euros, will follow the CCP? Brazil is the largest partner of the CCP in Latin America, but because of a hegemonic move by the CCP, all Brazilian people have made Taiwan great, the #1 label. Taiwan's exposure in Brazil has never been so high, spending huge sums of money to grab a few small island countries from the Republic of China, Taiwan, in the South Pacific. As a result, attracted the United States and Australia to deal with them ruthlessly. In the future, we will see each island country return to the embrace of the Republic of China. The fourth thing, Hong Kong, a good international financial center, has become what it is now. In the 40 years of reform and opening up, how much capital and technology have entered China through Hong Kong? It can be said that without Hong Kong, there would be no economic prosperity in the mainland. How much has Hong Kong's stock market financed state-owned and private enterprises? What kind of convenience does it bring to China in trade? You have to engage in extradition regulations to mess up a safe, prosperous, and stable Hong Kong, and then create a national security law in order to clean up the chaos and push Hong Kong to a more chaotic state. Fifth thing, Taiwan-Strait relations have become like this. It is not the CCP. Tsai Ing-wen of the Democratic Progressive Party was still a little bit difficult to re-elect last year. What's more ridiculous is that Tsai Ing-wen was elected with an unprecedented number of over 8 million votes. Beijing became a super assistant to his opponent Tsai Ing-wen. The sixth thing, the most serious thing, is that the relationship with the United States has become what it is now. Is it worse than before the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and the United States? Deng Xiaoping begged President Carter to train some students for China. Now it has become the point where science and engineering students are driven back to China by the United States. Damn it. The Sino-US relationship, which has been established by many generations of leaders as grandsons and endured humiliation, has now been destroyed overnight. Seventh thing, how is the relationship with Russia, which was bought with cheeky and huge sums of money now? Will Putin be used by you? Does Putin help you when you encounter difficulties? The eighth thing, the country's economy is about to collapse. In other words, in the 8 years since the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, the CCP's economic decision-making has become more and more chaotic. As a result, the accumulation of 40 years of reform and opening up has almost been lost. Xi Jinping's 9th year in power is almost over. By next year, he will definitely mess up at least 2 things, and he will surely make up the top 10 failures. He seems to have been sent by heaven to destroy the CCP. Other leaders can't do one thing so badly. Let's first sort out these 8 things that Xi Jinping has done in time to see how profuse Xi Jinping is. The first thing is the Belt and Road Initiative, the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, and the Chinese dream proposed by Xi Jinping in November 2012. This dream is very accurate. Everything in the next 8 things is like a dream, all of which are huge failures. The Belt and Road concept that Xi Jinping put forward in 2013 can be said to be Xi Jinping's specific implementation plan for rejuvenating China and realizing the Chinese dream. It became China's top-level national strategy during Xi Jinping's administration. Therefore, Xi Jinping's initiative was praised by Chinese public opinion at the time as the key to opening the bottleneck of world economic growth and development. But such hope is wishful thinking. China is still a country with a large number of poor people and a very low per capita income. There is no real excess of funds at all. Investing in poor and turbulent areas with a harsh investment environment cannot effectively solve China's overcapacity problem, but it will waste China's precious resources. For Xi Jinping personally, he was portrayed as a leader with a global vision and international leadership. At the time, his political goal was to consolidate his political authority before the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. PricewaterhouseCoopers, an international accounting and auditing professional service organization, published the China New Silk Road Initiative report in February 2016. The title is taken from the famous song The Long Road by the famous British band The Beatles in the 1970s. Curved Road. The report believes that the ancient Silk Road before 2000 was naturally formed due to the increasing foreign demand for Chinese silk. However, the planned Belt and Road Initiative is now more driven by China's own interests. This ambitious plan involves connecting more than 70 countries in Asia, Europe, and Africa through a series of railway, highway, and maritime infrastructure projects, thus forming the New Silk Road. Beijing's goal is to promote regional linkages and economic integration, thereby expanding China's economic and political influence. As of the end of 2018, China has agreed to carry out overseas investment and construction contracts worth $690 billion in more than 105 countries. By narrowing its focus to the 72 countries participating in the Belt and Road project. The IF also estimated that China has injected a total of $280 billion in funds into 44 countries that have not been rated by Fitch or have not received an investment grade rating. Beginning in 2017, China has successively signed local currency swap agreements with 21 countries along the Belt and Road, and 6 countries along the route have obtained RMB Qualified Foreign Institutional Investor (RQFI) quota. Domestic currency settlement and direct currency transactions in trade and investment. It can be regarded as basically stopping the investment of US dollars. So far, China has invested nearly $1 trillion in the One Belt One Road project. The investment payback period of the Belt and Road projects is basically 20 to 30 years. From 2013 to 2018, the Belt and Road projects, with a total value of more than $419 billion encountered various difficulties, including project delays, public opposition, shortages of funds, and national security disputes, etc.
China is spending billions of dollars in secret development spending, twice as much as the US and other major powers combined. American researchers from AIIB found that most of this lending is coming in the form of risky, high-interest loans from Chinese state banks, and the figures are startling. 13,500 infrastructure projects worth $843 billion across 165 countries. Now, much of this money is linked to President Xi's ambitious Belt and Road strategy. Here's Celia Hatton.
A 150-page report full of hidden data that took U.S. researchers 4 years to uncover. It's full of hidden information that the Chinese government doesn't even have about its own lending. Namely, that China is bankrolling international infrastructure projects, big things like bridges and ports, at twice the rate of the United States and other major powers. And the majority of that funding is being channeled through Chinese state banks. They're often issuing risky, high-interest loans. $843 billion worth of funding spread across 165 countries.
Well, AIIB's executive director, Dr. Brad Parks, told us why he believes China's lending this money is so concerning.
The levels of debt accumulation over time are staggering. We found that 42 countries around the globe now have levels of public debt exposure to China in excess of 10% of GDP. And as Celia mentioned, a lot of the public debt is hidden from public view. So the Belt and Road Initiative has really created major debt sustainability challenges for poor countries. Beijing really has a buyer's remorse problem on its hands. Many foreign leaders who were initially eager to jump on the Belt and Road bandwagon are now suspending or canceling Chinese infrastructure projects because of debt sustainability concerns and because changes in public opinion are making it difficult for these leaders to maintain close relations with Beijing. I think the jury's still out on whether buyer's remorse among borrower countries will undermine the long-run sustainability of Belt and Road. But clearly, Beijing needs to watch its flank because there will soon be greater choice in the infrastructure financing market, which could lead to some high-profile defections from the Belt and Road Initiative. The US, the UK, and the other members of the G7 are now positioning the Belt and Road Initiative as the low-quality infrastructure option and their own Build Back Better World initiative as an alternative, higher-quality option for countries that want to undertake infrastructure projects based on transparent and sustainable financing.
In the years since the related report was released, more Belt and Road projects have encountered setbacks and insufficient funds. In particular, the Belt and Road projects in South Asia and Southeast Asia not only fail to generate return on investment, but may even damage political relations. The most notable failure case is still the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, which the government was forced to hand over to China in December 2017. As a result of the Belt and Road project, Sri Lanka and other Indo-Pacific countries from Myanmar to Mongolia are burdened with debts that may not be repaid. They face the risk of losing their sovereignty and the possibility of China interfering in their affairs. In the face of this complete failure, countries in the region and the world are becoming more and more cautious about accepting Chinese funds, especially in the form of concessional loans. At the end of 2017, Nepal cancelled the Badi Gandaki hydropower station, Badi Gandaki, project in cooperation with China. According to The Guardian, in August 2018, Myanmar, which is wary of debt traps, reduced China-backed port projects from $7.3 billion to $1.3 billion. Recently, Bangladesh handed over a number of projects, including the Matabali Port project in Cox's Bazar to Japan because of documents proving corruption in China. The failure of the One Belt One Road project also affected East Asia, Europe, and Latin America. According to Reuters, a Chinese company built a road to nowhere in Montenegro, photo taken near Bias village in April 2019. Analysts predict that Montenegro will never be able to borrow enough funds to build the highway connecting the port city of Bara on the Adriatic coast with Serbia. In China, some projects are promoted by local authorities to show their support for Xi Jinping, and because the One Belt One Road project opens the door to bank funding. A few years ago, the China National Railway Group was exposed. Many freight trains between China and Europe, China-Europe Express, carried a large number of empty containers. An investigation by China Business News also found that 40 of the 41 containers carried by the freight train did not contain any goods during a single delivery process. The Chinese government issued attractive subsidies to the transportation of containers. Delivery of empty containers cannot be stopped. Because of Xi Jinping's One Belt One Road initiative, it aims to allow the central government to connect China's economic and trade networks and promote global trade. For this reason, many local governments are scrambling to open rail services to Europe. In addition to showing support for central policies, shipping containers can also receive high subsidies from local governments, which has led to endless situations that empty containers are shipped from everywhere to Europe. In addition, the Chinese government has issued high subsidies to freight trains, and the official media has exaggerated and praised the policy. Companies, in order to defraud the subsidies, have caused the delivery of empty containers to become more rampant. In 2018, the Ministry of Finance of China provided a subsidy of up to 50% for freight train transportation costs. In 2019, it will be reduced to 40%. In 2020, it will be reduced to 30%. The subsidy will be completely eliminated in 2022. According to data from the authorities, local governments are generous in granting subsidies. For example, the Xi'an government provided subsidies of up to $3,000 per container shipped to Europe in 2018. Jonathan Hillman, a senior researcher at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, a Washington think tank, said that the empty container issue is in line with the Belt and Road Initiative's focus on short-term political benefits and ignorance of long-term economic fundamentals. The China-Europe Express is actually like an advertising tool to promote the land transportation of the One Belt, One Road. Although it is full of gimmicks, it cannot challenge the dominance of shipping. Many services of the China-Europe Express train are not economical. The cargo contractor in Hangzhou, Jiang province, said that in order to save costs, he usually recommends that customers use sea freight. It takes 18 days to transport the goods from Hefei and Hu to Hamburg, Germany by China-Europe Express. Today the difference is not big, but the cost of rail transportation is at least twice that of sea transportation. Many port projects and infrastructure projects along the Belt and Road have basically become excuses for Chinese Communist Party officials and host country officials to defraud and embezzle funds, and most of them are currently stagnant. As for China-Europe freight, once subsidies are cancelled, it will be unsustainable. Basically, the Belt and Road Initiative has completely failed. Therefore, in the 6th plenary session of the Communist Party of China, Xi Jinping's great achievements no longer mention the Belt and Road Initiative. The second thing that failed, AIIB. To be honest, when the AIIB was established, it was actually just a pawn in China's geopolitical strategic layout. The purpose was threefold: to be a regional international financial institution that cooperates with the Belt and Road Initiative to export production capacity, in order to compete for the dominant position in the Asian region with the Asian Development Bank led by Japan, increase the bargaining chip to compete with the United States for world leadership. In recent years, due to fierce internal partisanship and conflicts in the United States, and because of dissatisfaction with Globalization 1.0 during President Trump, he has adopted an exit strategy at the United Nations. China believes that this is a good time for China to seize world leadership. Although there are many countries participating in the AIIB, there are 107 countries, but most of them only paid a part of the subscribed share capital, and they all held the idea of participating first. If you participate, there may not be any benefits, but if you do not participate, if there is any benefit, you will definitely not get it. This can be seen from the 4 years after the establishment of the AIIB that China is basically actively leading and participating in the country's perfunctory attitude. In addition, the Belt and Road countries are basically high-risk countries with low credit ratings, and some countries even did not enter the international credit rating. Investment in such a high-risk country, according to China's historical experience, is mostly a waste of money. Some people believe that in the AIIB China has nearly 30% of the voting rights and has the right to refuse. This voting right ostensibly stems from China's absolute advantage in share allocation. In fact, the funds are mainly from China. China has set up a stage and asked people to sing on stage. Each country needs to subscribe for the share setting, and the share of other countries is much smaller than that of China. However, there is another rule that is not very publicized. Most countries sponsor heads, nominal, and subscribe to different share capitals, but the actual paid amount is much lower than the subscribed amount, and it is agreed that only when the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank runs out of cash will it require its members to pay its outstanding share capital. For example, Hong Kong needs to subscribe for 7,651 shares of capital, of which 1,530 shares are paid up capital, and the remaining $1.2 billion is paid in 5 years. For the above reasons, China is still an old habit of granting loans irrespective of aid and loans. Of course, countries will respect the unspoken rule of whose money makes the decision. Let China toss it on its own. Anyway, the funds have been squandered, and the biggest loss is China. To summarize briefly, the reason why AIIB has become a dispersal institution of the Chinese government comes from its original intention. It is a pawn of China's international strategic geopolitics, serving politics and digesting the huge excess capacity formed by the overexpansion of the country's infrastructure. More, it comes from the essence of the Chinese Communist Party first, the Chinese mode of operation, with political goals paramount. Second, the participating countries. Most borrowers are politically high-risk countries with poor reputation. India's loan model from the AIIB shows that the AIIB still follows the Chinese model. political goals are prioritized, aid and loans are not distinguished, and recipients are willing to blow this point. As a result, every few years, it had to announce the cancellation of debts of developing countries. In June 20th, China announced the suspension of debt repayments of 77 countries. Although the specific amount has not been announced, Africa has requested China to forgive more than $100 billion of debt due to the epidemic, and the total amount should be no less than $20 billion. The Belt and Road Initiative and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Corporation did not win any real benefits for China, but only won the title of Supermoon. Why throw it for Xi Jinping at home and abroad? This title aptly reveals the two characteristics of Xi Jinping. The third thing that failed, Xiong'an New District, a millennial plan, was shattered.
We are here in a place called Xiong'an. Wow. And to tell you what Xiong'an is a brand new city being built. And ultimately, it's being built for 25 million. Don't expect that capacity around 2035, but that just shows you how sort of far in advance the Chinese think. And it's kind of Xi Jinping's pet project, but one of the main reasons for it is to take the sort of overcapacity out of Beijing. Beijing's getting too crowded, it's getting very expensive. China think that the housing crisis is getting a bit too crazy and housing in cities is becoming too expensive. So I would hazard a guess it's a way of possibly controlling that.
Yeah.
Or what do you think?
I mean, China thinks 3 steps ahead, you know, so...
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of countries, a lot of governments don't really think 4 years or one administration
because
ahead.
They've got this cycle, right?
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, behind us, this is just one of the job sites, and it's not even the biggest, which is crazy.
The whole project apparently is costing as much as $580 billion.
Over half $1 trillion
to build a city. And I'll be honest, you know, I'm getting on, and I've seen a lot of construction in my time.
Never seen
and I have
this.
never, ever seen construction on a scale like this. We were at a place yesterday. Now, when I see them building in the UK, they might build, like, if they're building houses, which bear in mind are only 2 stories, right?
Yep.
They might be building like 15 or 20 at one time. The rest will be complete.
15 or 20, that's a big project.
Here, they are literally building hundreds, if not thousands, all at the same time. And these are not 2-story houses. These are like 30-story tower blocks.
Yeah.
Shopping malls, cinemas, hospitals.
Everything you need for a major, like for a New York City style city.
This, you know.
I don't know how much the CCP's propaganda department spent to invite these 2 people. They are talking about articles written by the CCP's propaganda department. Many people who don't know the Chinese can easily believe what they say. But then you will know that they are only part of the mercenaries employed by the CCP who propagate lies to foreign countries. On April 1st, 2017, the Chinese Communist Party media issued a unified draft, announcing that the 3 counties of Hebei, Xiong'an, Rongcheng, and Anxin will be merged to establish a national-level Xiong'an New District, which will be compared with Shenzhen Special Economic Zone and Shanghai Pudong New District, called Major Historical Strategic Choice, Millennial Plan, National Event. Since the Xiong'an New District was established on April 1st, many people thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. Kay Schenken, a well-known mainland scholar, once wrote, "The plan for the Xiong'an New Area to be released on April Fool's Day was thought to be just a joke, especially the bosses and ordinary people who have robbed a large piece of land or a lot of houses in San, Xiang, Langfangguan, and other places around Beijing, are even more reluctant to believe that. Why did the central government put this Xiong'an New District, which is comparable to the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone and Pudong New District, in a sparsely populated and heavily polluted remote rural area? When people reacted, property speculators from all over China swarmed in. Overnight, the local property price soared from RMB 4,000 per square meter to RMB 40,000, catching up to the first-tier cities such as Beijing and Shanghai. However, the large-scale construction of the Xiong'an New District is not started for more than 4 years. The streets are deserted, and people from other places have been evacuated. Local people have also complained about being demolished by the authorities, having nowhere to stay, being arrested for defending their rights, and having nowhere to ask for help. The Millennium Plan will be paid for by the local authorities in Hebei. Today, the Chinese Communist Party has issued new regulations to reposition the Xiong'an New Area. Some commentators believe that this actually means that the local authorities in Hebei will pay for the Millennium Plan. Hebei province estimates that it will be difficult to repay debts even after Xi Jinping's resignation or the demise of the Chinese Communist Party. 4 years ago, the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China positioned the Xiong'an New Area as a Millennium Plan to become the political and economic center of China. Now it seems that the plan is difficult to complete. The central government has handed over the burden of this Millennium Plan to Hebei province, indicating China's current economic difficulties. The central government may not have large sums of money to complete this Millennium Plan. It can only be handed over to the local governments. Slowly go ahead. The 20th National Congress will be held next year. If the responsibility for the failure of the Millennium Plan falls on the central government, it will have an impact on the layout of the 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China. So now the senior management simply dumped it as an unfinished project to the local authorities in Hebei. The Xiong'an starting area is located in the area north of Zemin North Dike in the northern part of Bayangdian. The terrain is low-lying, and the existing flood control capacity of the project is relatively low. This is a very obvious goal for flood control, so in the case of torrential floods, it is also a way to shed the burden by the authorities to throw Xiong'an to the local authorities. Double quote. Water Conservancy expert Wang Wheeler once wrote an article about the location of the Xiong'an New District was wrong. He said that the Xiong'an New District is the lowest place in the North China Plain, which violates the teachings of the ancestors and the reason for slow development. The mission of Xiong'an as a political and economic center has not progressed for 4 years, and the huge amount of money invested has basically been in vain. Moreover, it is faced with major deficiencies in a series of policies such as flooding, torrential rains, and flood prevention and water storage, which forced it to abandon the Xiong'an New Area. In 4 years, the National Development Bank alone and the National Development and Reform Commission issued special funds for the Xiong'an New Area, as well as environmental governance, high-tech industries, and other financial support, which have reached hundreds of billions of yuan, plus the investment of state-owned enterprises, which is probably close to 1 trillion yuan. The people of the Xi family really couldn't do normal things. Xi Jinping insisted on joining Mao Deng and surpassing Jiang, Zemin, and Jintao. But Deng has the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, and Jiang has the Pudong New Area. Xi has messed up his Millennium Plan. Although the 6th plenary session did not mention that Xi Jinping and his group wanted to be Xiong'an, it never happened. But it is on the edge of Beijing. People all over the country know that the losses in Xiong'an New Area are estimated to exceed the Three Gorges Dam. Even if the Millennium Plan is turned into a sensitive word, it is useless. This slap is fast and cruel, but Xi Jinping is not afraid because of his thick-skinned face. Come on, Xi Jinping, the terminator of the CCP, the Belt and Road Initiative, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the Xiong'an New District. We don't know who designed the grand blueprint for Xi Jinping, but the result made people know that Xi Jinping and his team had a poor economic level and failed to do anything. The domestic business community was completely disappointed in him. The key issue is that these 3 failures of Xi Jinping resulted in the loss of tens of trillions of RMB. These are the wealth accumulated by the people, enough for all Chinese people to have free medical care and free education for hundreds of years. I am talking about this today, and I will continue to talk about it in the next issue. Thanks for watching. Please click like and subscribe.